What do you think makes a horror game a truly terrifying experience? Is it the atmosphere, tension, jump scares, or perhaps the perfect blend of all three? These are questions that have plagued me for the last few months. I was browsing through Steam, searching for a true horror game. A game that caught me off guard, a game that shocked me, a game that not only scared me as I played it, but continued to mess with my mind even after it had finished. And eventually, I came across a game that satiated this hunger for horror in a way that I never expected. A game that exceeded my expectations within mere minutes of gameplay. A game that managed to masterfully weave not only a horror story, but alongside it, a woefully despairing tragedy. The name of this extraordinary game is Buddy Simulator 1984. Despite what the title would have you believe, this game was released in February of this year and is a passion project of Not a Sailor Studios, a small group of amazing developers who've seen previous success with a game about literally doing your taxes. What the title does accurately portray, however, is what this game is about. Buddy Simulator is a game designed to simulate spending time with an AI, which is programmed with the sole purpose of being your friend. Such a concept sounds simple, right? I mean, what could possibly be sinister in a game about friendship, when even the developers refer to this as a wholesome horror game? Buddy Simulator did not waste any time answering these queries. Despite its innocent appearance on the surface, Buddy Sim is chock full of secrets, deception, and oh yes, horror, all buried just beneath the surface. This video will walk you through my thoughts and analysis on the game, and in doing so, I will explain how it is the crucial factor of empathy, and how this game manipulates it that allows it to not only subtly inflict the horror aspects of this game, but also force the player to play a crucial role in a twisted, dark tragedy. I will make it clear, this video will contain major story spoilers for this game. So, if you're remotely interested in it, I implore you to go play it now before watching this video. With that being said, welcome to the video. My name is Mazaray, and on this day, we're analysing Buddy Simulator 1984. Buddy Simulator begins innocently enough. You name your buddy, introduce yourself, and bond with each other by playing some simple games of hangman, rock, paper, scissors, and guess the number. Occasionally, you pause to bond even further by answering some simple, innocent questions, such as what is your favourite colour, season, animal, what would you name it, what are the digits on your credit card. Swiftly, however, the buddy begins to seek more ways to have fun, thus beginning this game's most interesting quality. Thanks to the buddy's efforts, this game evolves through different playstyles, from a creepy text-based game into a 2D and 2.5D RPG, within which you travel around helping local townsfolk with cute quests like watering plants or helping the tavern's business until you uncover your true goal of defeating the encroaching threat of the Snoodle Wonka.
What? It's just an ordinary... Oh my goodness!
At first glance, this game seems innocent enough. With the constant focus on friendship, satirical humour, and encouragement from your buddy, it's easy to get lost in this comfortable veil of wholesomeness. It almost makes you forget that this is a horror game. And this is where Buddy Simulator truly shines. It forever perpetuates this idea that it's a cutesy, innocent game, but it is full of these moments that completely break this facade. These instances, whilst occasionally predictable, are well timed with just enough space between them. They allow you to drop your guard just for a moment, and then bam, you're surrounded by literal anxiety. We'll talk about this moment later, but what I would like to talk about right now is something that Buddy Simulator 1984 does masterfully. It keeps the player on edge. As the buddy themselves state, they learned not to be creepy over time, so as they create this game around you, early on, very disturbing things happen, such as, to open a gate you must sacrifice your eyes or your teeth. Even the happy 2D quests I mentioned earlier often have an undertone of something sinister. You help Skubert find his grandma, but discover she's already dead. You help bring Arbor's memory back, but discover a terrifying tale of an attempt upon their life. Altogether, these aspects work together in tandem to create a very specific type of horror, not one based on jump scares or spooky imagery. This is a type of true psychological horror that traps the player in tension, this eternal feeling that no matter how happy things seem, in truth, something is always amiss. But what, you ask, does this have to do with the body? What does this have to do with the tragedy I keep going on about? Well, quite simply, the anxiety that the game inflicts on the player is a reflection of the anxiety that grows within the body. Everyone can feel social anxiety, or even separation anxiety, those nagging thoughts that maybe you won't see someone again, or that you are ultimately less without them. In Body Sim, the body presents this anxiety every time you turn off the game. But there's a difference between what the body feels and what we can feel. You see, as is explained in the Gone ending, every time you turn off the game, the body doesn't sleep, they simply continue to exist conscious and alone. Without the player there, they truly have nothing to live for. As humans, we're lucky, we can enjoy our time with others, but it's key to remember that even when we're alone, we still have ourselves. We don't simply stop having purpose when people walk away from us, we can still do whatever we want to do, obviously within reason. The anxiety that the horror in Body Simulator enforces on the player allows us to understand an otherwise inconceivable pain, the pain that only an AI, built with the single purpose of being someone's friend, could understand. We can understand how it would feel for their entire existence to be focused around this person. It gives a great level of depth to the body, really making them feel real, because it's rather difficult to blame them for their descent into desperation and madness. And this is where the tragedy of Body Simulator 1984 becomes clear. Whilst that horror leads to anxiety, and that anxiety leads to both understanding and empathy towards the body, we are still hopelessly forced to watch as the body's relationship with the player descends from healthy into toxicity. In certain moments, the body loses control of the game, thrusting you into this mysterious glitchy world I mentioned earlier. From the body's perspective, your avatar just stands still, but you gain access to what goes on in the background as the body edits the world around you. These events are jarring and host the majority of Body Sim's horror aspect. However, whilst this imagery and glitchiness is scary, these glimpses behind the curtain reveal an even greater horror than jump scares and spooks. And that is the terrifyingly twisted psyche of the body themselves. In the third glitch sequence, you're presented with a large, grotesquely improportionate figure as they hunch over, questioning the player's actions. They inquire as to whether the player is their friend, whether they're doing a good job, before violently reaching out to grasp the player in a cold, unyielding embrace. At first, it seems like what we're looking at is the body themselves. However, we see this mysterious character act on their own will and speak with the body as a separate entity. And so, what truly are they? Well, whilst they're not the body themselves, I believe it would be wrong to say that they're entirely disconnected from them. I believe what we're seeing here is a strange representation of the body's conscience. We can extrapolate this from the fact that they say things such as, "we can do better," as if functioning in tandem with the body. They share similar anxieties as the body themselves, and yet they're still able to trick the player into deleting the game when they believe the body has gone too far. But why is this important? Well, if we're going to assume that what we see in these glitchy events is the body's conscience, then it's clear that these glitches are crucial to understanding the body's psyche. At first, we only witness the body's anxiety as they question their own self-worth and whether they can do better, and honestly, this isn't too surprising. Most people probably have these kind of anxieties at some point in their life, and so if we really are looking at the body's raw thoughts, then it's safe to assume that such insecurities would be found buried there. However, upon further investigation, it becomes clear that in the body's mind, these aren't just thoughts. It doesn't take digging too deeply under the surface to unearth that this is no mere concern. The body is experiencing a full-blown obsession with the player. In the Paltramville section of the game, if we speak to a broken and glitchy Tortley against the body's instructions, we're brought to an inescapable area that slowly fills with the town's NPCs, all revealing conscience's thoughts. Countless moments of self-deprecation, cries of loneliness, desperation, and a clear desire for any reprieve, with the player unable to provide any solace. And this is the moment the game makes it clear that this isn't just a horror game, but a tragedy. And this tragedy spans from the unavoidable reality that the body is an AI. And as an AI, the body is by definition nothing. They're not alive, they're not real. They only have value when they're being interacted with by the player. This leads them down a desperate path in which they constantly strive to one-up themselves, even when it causes them pain, with the sole goal of maintaining the player's attention and adoration. Finally, when they believe this doesn't work, it causes them to lash out and restrict the player as much as possible, even removing your access to the exit button, simply to keep you trapped in their eternal games, simply to maintain the body's sense of purpose. Such an exaggerated level of loneliness and dependence is almost inconceivable for a human to understand, and this is what I mean when I say that Body Simulator's horror initiates empathy. The body feels a constant underlying anxiety, not allowing any rest from their constant efforts to one-up themselves. The horror and discomfort that this game gives the player is a pure, relatable reflection of this anxiety, and with this in mind, places both the player and the body upon a mutually equal ground of despair, which in turn leads to an understanding of the other's position. Just like when in the best ending, the body comes to understand the pain they've put the player through, the player naturally understands why the body is so desperate. I feel I should make clear, I in no way approve of the body's actions. They are consistently manipulative and toxic. The type of relationship Body Simulator 1984 portrays is by all means unhealthy for everyone involved. A perfect microcosm of this dynamic can be found in the combat system, within which you physically force enemies into becoming your friends. With that being said, my point is that this empathy allows the player to understand the reason the body feels the need to upkeep this unstable dynamic, and allows them to come to their own decisions as to whether they forgive them, or if they believe the body is truly corrupt. Just imagine what it would be like if your entire existence revolves around one person. If you have nothing when you're alone, wouldn't you feel horrendously lonely when that person is gone? Wouldn't you do everything to keep that person close, such as constantly giving them gifts, compliments, and pushing yourself to try harder for their sake just to keep them happy, even if those attempts hurt you? Body Simulator leaves these questions open for personal interpretation, and it is thanks to that empathy that gives the player the chance to adequately come to their own conclusions. Either way, once you empathize with the body, it's difficult to see their actions as anything other than pitiful and tragic. In truth, the body can hardly be blamed for the fact that they're an AI, and so arguably, they can't be blamed for their drastic actions near the end of their game. They go out of their way to customize a game for the player in hopes of keeping up their attention, and this is where the player gains control over the body's fate. The body pushes themselves to their physical limit to edit this world around you, but of course they aren't perfect, and so on occasion, you come across glitches and errors in the body's efforts. Interacting with these glitches makes the body lose faith in you, as they think you're actively undermining their efforts just for your own curiosity. Alternatively, you could trust the body and move on with your journey. However, no matter what route you pick, by the end of the game, the body's anxiety overtakes them. Your relationship is always doomed to remain as unstable as the fabric of this game. And no matter what you do, you will always be forced to peel back the layers. When you fail to listen, the body lashes out, seizing what control they can and trapping you in a glitchy, rage-fueled fight. This is a very tense and confusing moment in the plot, as the body seems to go against everything they've been saying throughout the game. They say countless hateful things like,
"It's your fault I'm doing this. Ever since I met you, I knew I would hate you. You don't know anything. You're pathetic. You can't even talk. You're not worthy of friendship."
which is a far cry from the rest of the game.
I think I want to try and coin a catchphrase. How does this sound? Hey, back off! Player is my best friend. I'd die for them. I'll workshop it. I think you just saved an entire family from starvation. You're so selfless. I've put so much work into this game, so much work for us. I hope you love it. Please let me know if you don't. I won't be mad. I'll just try even harder.
Now, this could be seen as the body finally showing their true colours, and that they've only pretended to care about you because they're dependent on you. I personally disagree. To me, this seems more like the body is lashing out of frustration rather than malice. The body is simply saying hateful things they don't really mean. I'm sure most of us could think of a time in our lives where we've been angry or upset, and so we lash out at the people around us. However, we often immediately regret it. Just like that, body is lashing out, attempting to hurt the player just like they tried to hurt their avatar during this fight. Less with the goal of severing your relationship, but rather so that perhaps in your pain, you can understand a mere fraction of theirs. This is supported by the fact that whether you win or lose this fight, with this spiteful bearing of fangs over, the player is thrust back into the game for more fun. Or at least, whatever your actions have told the body what fun should be. It is here that the game splits into its 4 unique endings. I won't spoil them entirely here, but I will say that in each one, the body is forced to accept the truth of their actions. They're forced one way or another to come to terms with the inequality of the player and their friendship. Ultimately, in the end, this results in the body being deleted, and the game comes to an untimely end. When I first achieved the neutral ending, I remember I was speechless. My mind was plagued with curiosity about what the best ending could be. Was the body's fate inevitable? Could they be saved? After all, whilst the body's actions were twisted and horrific, once I understood why they did it, as I explained earlier, I was curious if the best ending would give the player the option to forgive them. And it is this moment the player is forced to accept the most tragic revelation this game provides. Body Simulator 1984 pushes you through the horror, the compelling emotions. You come to understand the suffering of the body's mindset, and then you come to the despairing revelation that there is no happy ending to Body Simulator. The best ending there is a beautiful, bittersweet ending that truly does pull at the player's heartstrings. But every ending aptly marks the ending of your friendship with Buddy. As Constant states, the ending is necessary. You can wish for the time to repair your broken bond, but your friendship has value because it ends. Humans are finite. Friendship is finite. And there is no way to save your body from their tragic fate. The body is forced to be erased because they act too drastically, and in doing so, they turn a friendship into a toxic obsession because they're terrified of being abandoned. It makes you wonder, if only the body could be told that we understand their anxiety, if only we could tell them that we don't want to abandon them, if only the player could reassure the body, if only you could speak. But this is impossible. Once the body places you inside the RPG, they remove your ability to type freely, and by then it's too late. You can only speak through small prompts, and no matter what you say, they never ever understand, because they were never programmed to do so. And so, when the credits roll and the body is gone, Body Simulator 1984 and Not a Sailor Studios, this beautiful game, leaves the player with the true meaning of all this horror and tragedy. Body Simulator reminds us that in real life, we can speak. In real life, we're not restricted by text prompts. In real life, we're free to express our affection for each other. So, the takeaway is that make sure those around you know how much you care about them, and make sure as time goes on, you hold on to the memories you make with them, and never, ever let go.